Et donc, c'est vraiment une chance de pouvoir bénéficier de sa présence ici à l'école. Donc, je vais rapidement vous présenter notre conférencière de ce soir. Donc, Carin est née à Pretoria, en Afrique du Sud. Elle a fondé le cabinet d'architectes CS Studio en 1989 avec Urs Schmid. La pratique de cette agence s'est démarquée dès l'origine par des pratiques peu conventionnelles qui l'ont portée à s'engager en faveur de projets à forte dimension sociale et politique. Elle intervient essentiellement dans les townships de Capetown pour les populations défavorisées. Carin Smuts est lauréate du Global Award for Sustainable Architecture, prix international d'architecture durable, en 2008 et en 2017. Et en 2017, du prestigieux prix UIA Robert Matthew. Ce prix, créé en 1978 sous le nom de l'ancien président de l'Union internationale des architectes, Robert Matthew, incarne les objectifs du programme des Nations Unies pour les établissements humains. Donc le thème de sa conférence, mais je la laisserai vous en parler, s'intitule « Learning by Doing ». Et je vais me permettre aussi de lire le texte qui a été envoyé pour illustrer son propos en français. Ensuite, la conférence aura lieu en anglais. Donc, l'intitulé de cette conférence, Apprendre par la pratique. Lorsqu'on poursuit ses études en architecture, l'une des expériences les plus gratifiantes est de travailler sur un chantier réel. Au sein de CS Studio Architectes, nous travaillons souvent avec les personnes qui vivent autour du projet de construction et avec les étudiants. L'Afrique du Sud compte 61 millions d'habitants et 33,5% de chômeurs. Un pays ayant 11 langues officielles et de nombreuses cultures différentes. C'est pourquoi nous avons établi comme base de notre méthode de travail l'écoute de nos clients. Il est important de comprendre le contexte dans lequel nous allons œuvrer, ce qui permet d'utiliser les matériaux et les ressources humaines locales. Nous savons que nous pouvons apprendre des autres. Nous pensons que la conception durable se compose de 3 éléments principaux: le social, l'économique, l'environnemental. Elles sont toutes aussi importantes les unes que les autres. Notre objectif avec la conception participative est de donner aux gens les moyens d'utiliser les ressources locales d'une manière plus durable et plus innovante. Donc ça, c'était une citation un peu longue, mais qui me semblait bien introduire le propos. Et je ne vais pas garder la parole plus longtemps pour la laisser à notre invité avec plaisir. Et remercier encore Robert Seller.
Does this thing work? Okay. Bonsoir. Hélène, thank you very much for the introduction. Robert, thank you for getting me to come here. And very good to see Jean-Marc again. I apologize that I'm not going to talk in French. I'm going to try and rather entertain you with some images of work. I apologize again. I changed the slide, the presentation an hour ago. Because as I was coming here, I just thought more about all of you and everything, and I realized that I would prefer to show you these things. Okay, so I am calling this talk Dreams and Space, because I think that a lesson I've learned is that if you as an architect can make people dream, and then you take what they're dreaming and you put it into architecture, it's much more fun and it's much more enjoyable. So when I studied architecture in Cape Town, it was a very European, Western European. We learned about the Greeks, we learned about the Romans, the Italians, and I was very frustrated because we were in Africa. And nobody wanted to use any African references. And even our culture was completely, we were explained that you need to know about these little Italian markets. And that doesn't really help you when you're working in Africa. So I started reading this man, who's an incredible writer, Watiyonga Ngugi. He's from Kenya. And he really puts energy into culture and cultural diversity and how important it is in terms of the way we understand space. So it's a very interesting person to read. He now teaches at Yale. He was actually detained in Kenya and wrote that book, Detained, where he also used participation to work with alcoholics to get them to rehabilitate their lives. So we use participation because it allows people to participate and to engage and to be empowered. Where often when you work in a situation where there's a government official or there's somebody who works very top down, we find it very manipulative, and it could just prevent people from giving all their insight into the context. Then when we look at sustainability, we see that there's always three components. So we've got social, we've got the economic, and the environmental. Regrettably, a lot of the environmental aspects are driven by capitalism, and it's the only aspect that people often focus on, which I think is really, really sad, because you really need to focus on all three, and you need to balance all three so that you can have a more sustainable environment. So we've done some of these participatory workshops in Africa and America, at Harvard, and then in France. And I just show this because it's not about working with poor people. People often say to me, you work like that because you're working with disadvantaged people. That's nonsense. I've worked here with very sophisticated people at Harvard University and in Europe, in France. So it's not about that. It's about working together and learning from each other. So this is a typical workshop that we do to engage with people, and I've now spent 2 days at Montpellier, and we worked with the master's students and with the first years on looking at some of this, and it was actually really stimulating what came out of it. These were my first clients. When I was a second-year student at university, the professor asked me to help these, and remember, this was in the height of apartheid. So you could not be more than 3 people in a conversation, or you were like a political problem. And we had to have our meetings and our workshops hidden away in other places. But these were the first people that became my clients and that I started working with. And I had to try, they were in Cradock, I'm in Capetown, which is in the south, and they were about 8 hours more towards the Eastern Cape. So they wanted to build a workshop for young people who'd graduated from school, and just to show how we worked with them. And then they built a creche, and then they built a library. And this is the next project we did with them, where we started planning a health center. So when we do a workshop, we will bring like specialists, like doctors, agronomers, physicians, pediatricians, a whole lot of people to interact with the people we work with so that they can give them some specialist advice. This is a man called Matthew Koniwe. In 1984, when I was working with that group in Cradock, he was a teacher with those other 3 guys at a high school in physics and maths. And he said to me one day, please use architecture to liberate people. And a few months later, the 4 of them were brutally killed by the South African police, because the police realized that they were going to be the next leaders. So these would have been sort of the leaders after Mandela and Walter Sisulu and them, but they clearly made sure they killed them before they could do that. Okay, so what came from that is that we worked in that community for probably the last 40 years. The red square shows you a school for children, a library, and a workshop. The blue square is the clinic, and then the yellow square is a multi-purpose cultural village, but we actually also built about 10,000 small houses. When Mandela was released, there was a program called the Reconstruction and Development Program. Unfortunately, the budget for a house was only €1,000. So now tell me how you're going to build a house for €1,000. So what we landed up doing is motivating that the property is big. So not to give a small piece of land, but a nice piece of land. And we built a house. And I apologize, it was 17 square meters, because that's all we could build with €1,000. But it meant that everybody could extend their houses. And what we did is the informal structures that they were living in, they had to bring them and attach them to that core house. This is the first play school. Then we go to another rural area up in the north, close to Namibia. And here we were asked to build also a school for children and a multi-purpose center. So you can see in this area people speak Afrikaans, which is the other language of the Northern Cape, and it's close to the Namibian border. And we worked in that community with the people and asking them what they wanted. They wanted the memory of this round hut. So you can see they used to make their traditional huts with little pieces of stick, and then they used to put sheep skin over it, and eventually they put these sackcloths over it, and they asked us to please keep that memory in the structure of their building. And it was really a very useful intervention from their side to guide us in terms of the design. These are some models, and I just show them because they're quite crude. We just use cardboard that is like boxes, and we build models to explain to people what the building will look like. This is the site and where we built the building. The 10 people who built the building were all alcoholics, and there was a diamond mine. So everybody who didn't have a job because they drank. So they came to the site, and we had to build with them. They made all the blocks on the site. They made it with sand and 5% cement, and then built this incredible building in about 9 months. And between 10 people, they built this entire building, which was incredible. And here you can see the teachers, the woodwork teachers, were putting the roof on. So we try and use local materials and local people, local resources as much as we can so that the money stays in that area and doesn't go into other areas. Here they were spinning and weaving, so we asked them to design the sound, the sort of sound wall at the back, which we could have bought from maybe a supplier, but we asked them to rather weave it, design it, and make it themselves instead of it being a bought thing. This was the opening of the facility, and you can see the water tank. When we arrived there was no electricity and no water. So we had to pump water from when there was a bit of water in the stream, pump it up into that tank, and then so that they could flush the toilets. This is a few years ago. We went back to visit it, and they had painted the building and built this nice wall in front of it. And when I asked a young girl, she was about 20, who she couldn't have even have been born when we built the building, I said, "Whose building is this?" And she said, "It's ours." And that was so nice. And I said, "But it must belong to the municipality." And she said, No. This building belongs to us, ourselves, which was quite nice. And they were busy feeding children. So this is in Langa, which is a township about 10 kilometers from the center of Capetown, the city. And that is a youth center that we did in 1989. There was a lot of gang fights, and about 38 young kids between the age of 10 and 30 had killed each other with a bicycle, the thing that the bicycle spoke, and with a panga. So because the housing conditions were so bad and there was nothing for these kids to do, they decided to make their own gang fights. There were 4 gangs, and they were just, in 1 year, they killed 38 of themselves. And we started working with them. Here you can see, very simple, just getting them away from the streets and away from... They also used to take glue, and they used to sniff glue and go high, which was really bad. So we had to work with the glue industry to get whatever was in the glue that made them high. We managed to get the glue industry to stop selling that glue, which was really very good in this 2-year process. So here you can see no money, no nothing, and we start working with the younger kids. This was once the building was there. We started working with the youth. I mean, it took 2 years. It took us 2 years of meeting every single week. And after 3 months, nobody was killed again in this particular. I mean, there are other gang fights, but in this 4 gangs, the killing stopped, which was amazing. So this was a workshop where we were planning how to use the building. It's a youth center. That was an existing hostel at the top that we recycled, we reused it. Here you can see the building when it was finished, and on the opening day, we tipped up the roof so that more people could get into it and use it. And that is the building from the front. There was a creche, there was a library, a dancing studio, art studio. It was incredible, and a lot of people's lives were changed through this building. At the back, sorry, I just want to show you this. The black steel is the old hostel that we took the bricks out, and the red is how we changed it to have a butterfly roof to make the building bigger. Here we were working with young kids, and they were drawing the patterns that we then worked with artists and with the people from the area, the youth, and we made a floor in the entrance of the building. Here you can see we just printed this drawings of the children into the floor. That's a model just showing you the front, which is on the left-hand side is the first phase, and at the back on the right-hand side was the second phase, which was a primary school for about 1,300 children. And it was a very successful school and project. Here you can just see some of the kids at the back. It was a primary school. This is the back's little school building. And that's what happened. In 2009, an adult gangster came to my office and he said, I am going to demolish that building down to the ground because I don't like the building and I would like to build a concrete building myself. He was a contractor. And he warned us and the community and the police, if we came near them whilst they were demolishing the building, they will kill us. So if you take steel out, you need a crane. So the man had to get a crane and jackhammers to take the building apart. Now there's nothing left of it. It's actually terribly sad because there were so many young people involved. And I mean, if you speak to young people in the area, they were very traumatized by this breaking down of the building. You can just see what it looks like. Then we go about 3 kilometers away from there, where we worked on an arts and culture center. Now, this center is one of the most stable places in this community. A lot of people feel very safe there, and they go there. In 1996, we worked with the Reconstruction and Development Program people, and we planned that first phase at the top, and then the one in blue at the back was entirely built by students. And I think that's why it's very important that students realize that they can get involved, they can do things with their hands, and they can build things, and they will learn a lot and a lot faster, I really believe. So this was just the soil turning ceremony of that first phase, just to show you the models we built. This model was built a little bit later when we already had the project going and we were sure of what we were doing. We needed to do those mosaics, the trees, so we made a bigger model to try and understand and explain it to everybody. So this is when we have these workshops. We asked the older people what they wanted. They wanted a traditional hut. And the younger people wanted more iPhones, iPads, BMW, convertibles. They came with imagery that was very contemporary, whereas the older people always want a hut. They always want a traditional hut. So that's how we then came to this contemporary shape. And there you can see it from the street. Also the importance of an urban edge where people can interact with each other. People feel safe, and it's a tiny building. It's a really small little building, but it actually a lot of people come to visit it. So the name of the building is Gugastebe, which is a Xhosa idiom. So we have 12 official languages in South Africa, and Xhosa is the language spoken in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, and that is an idiom, a cultural idiom that invites you to come and share your knowledge with whoever is there. And there you can see just some of the kids dancing. So that is a Gugastebe, that round thing with a maze in it. So it invites everybody to come and eat and to come and share. Then we also train young people in how to do mosaic work. And then these people land up training other people how to do mosaic work on more projects. And they've also been asked to do 5-star hotels, spas, and they've done hospitals and big things since this project. But this was the very first project that we trained them on. We trained about 20 of them. Then the central space is used for music, drumming. So that guy with a white T-shirt was actually part of that very first youth project that I showed you. He was one of the gangsters in the beginning. He learned how to play drums and he learned how to play marimba. So now he does this with young people after school, but he also does it with tourists. And he makes quite a bit of money that he then plows back into the kids. He has a bit of a feeding scheme and he helps them. So it's a very nice way of just having a round circle of activity. The thing that I showed you right in the beginning of social, economic, and the environmental, here you can see they make ceramics and then they sell it outside and they do really well. Before COVID, they counted up to 3,000 visitors a day coming to this building. So it's incredible how much everybody makes a bit of money. There's social interaction, there's social cohesion, and the building is entirely passive, although the municipality installed an air conditioning that has never been put on. But it was because they wanted an air conditioning to be installed. Our biggest problem is that local authorities and municipalities don't really work with us. They try to, for some reason, work against us. This was the ceremony where we handed a certificate. The whole building was built by people who live within 6 kilometers of the site. It was insane because they built this really beautiful building and they all lived in the area around it, plus they designed it with us. So the building was designed by the residents and also built by them. This is a lot of cultural activities happen here. They have a project called Open Streets. So everybody can come in, people bring pianos, people from all over the world come and interact. They bring different instruments, they stand outside. So this building has become something that a lot of people from all over the world come to and use to interact with people. Then I want to just show you at the back, especially for the students. This is an interaction with Aachen and Düsseldorf and Virginia Tech, so 3 universities, but at the end, we counted more than 2,000 students were involved in this building project. That's insane. The Habitat for Humanities arrived with guys who could weld. None of our architectural students could weld, but those guys could. So they came and offered to come and help us. So here you can see it's a building built with containers. It's a theater. It's a very beautiful theater. And you can see the truss was designed so that students could carry it. The students in Germany did some models. They did some design work. Here you can see they did some experimentation with materials. We learned a lot of lessons, and the students learned a lot of lessons. They wanted to cut up tires, and then they realized, but if the tires are in the sun, they're gonna go very brittle, and it's not really a nice product, and it actually isn't a nice product. They also made these cages, which was quite experimental and really lovely, trying to come up with ideas what to do once they come to South Africa. And then here they were playing with some bottles and seeing could they use bottles and straw. But then you'll see, when we finally got to site, it was a completely different story. Here are just some of the students, and then the municipality keeps on coming to hand them little gifts and take photographs to get some mileage, but they did nothing. The municipality, we raised the money in Germany. The municipality of Capetown gave us nothing. So we raised the money over a 10-year period. Here you can see the insulation is a 100mm frame with the grass and mud in it. So that we put on the outside of the containers. I'll show you now for insulation. Here the young students are carrying and assembling the truss. And here you can see the principle of the container, which then has the insulation attached to it. And then on top of that, we put recycled fruit crate pellets. So remember, these fruit crate pellets have been treated, so you don't really need to treat them. They've been treated for the fruit industry. So this is also an interesting story, that you can see the informal settlement behind the building. What we also did at the time is we managed to get a pipe, a stormwater pipe, because the settlement used to flood. But at the same time, we got the settlement moved into proper accommodation. They were, over the time that we worked, we managed to get them all moved into more formal accommodation. The guy on the left with the 50 on his top, he worked in my office, 20-year-old, and he managed the site and all the students. And when the holiday came and he went home to his parents, he unfortunately got killed in a car accident, which was really tragic. But he said to me the day before he left, it was the best 3 months of his life, to work on site, build a building, manage other students. He really enjoyed it. So we turned the inside into a workshop eventually and had some protected space. Here you can see the relationship with the other building. This is a group called Happy Feet. In fact, we used this organization to raise the money for this children's theatre, but the municipality wants them to pay to use it, so it's a bit of a problem. This was a bunch of architects who came to an architectural lecture, and then the building is used extensively by Italian opera companies come and do operas there. This is an entrepreneurial workshop. It's Red Bull. They come and talk about how to run a business, how to make a business. So again, it's that thing I showed you about social, economical, and environmental, that you really, this building is entirely passive. It's been designed by engineers in Germany, but the way the roof works, the air just floats through the little openings that we've left. And because of the insulation and the cladding, we have and these containers, the inside of the building, the climate is really, really nice. Yeah, and then in 2020, the security guard, he had a blanket, and his blanket caught fire in the heater. This is a major problem in South Africa. Every security guard always has a heater and a kettle and something. It's not very well planned. So the building burnt, and when the community tried the hose pipes and the fire extinguishers, there was no water because somebody from the municipality had shut the water valve. And they couldn't find any. Eventually, the fire engine came and found water like 2 kilometers away, and they had to bring water and spray it on here to try and stop this fire. So what happened? This was in the middle of COVID, so you couldn't get students involved, and the municipality allowed me to work with a contractor to reconstruct that roof, and then we were allowed. Another architect who I work with, Andy Horn, it was somebody from his office, somebody from my office, and 2 people. We made all the straw, the new insulation to put back where the other insulation was destroyed. And here you can see we worked with students to do that. It's slightly different from what it was before, but the students from Capetown University made insulation panels, and then a local group made these light fittings, because the light fittings themselves that we could afford were really ugly. So then we invented these funny spiky white things, which really give a nice effect in the room. And you can see lots of people come and use it. There's lots of workshops, lots of interaction. It's really a space that people love to use. There's always something going on in there. That's a workshop using recycled material. You can just see this. It's just lovely to see people coming and using the space. And that was the last thing we did last month, is when we play soccer in South Africa, they've got a habit of blowing on a plastic horn that makes a horrible noise. But anyway, we got some yellow ones donated, and a group of people I work with called Our Workshop, they made these beautiful handrails for us. This is a project in Nyanga, probably one of the most dangerous townships in the Western Cape. I have 5 friends who have lost their children who've been shot at gunpoint just being around in this area. And that was a building we did in 2000. This man phoned me and said, could you please do a 36 square meter building for my organization? And eventually it turned into a 3,000 square meter building. So it is a multi-purpose center that is really brings alive, and we always try and look at the urban edge, activate the urban edge. Unfortunately, the municipality has put a fence around the building. They don't want the people to do this. They want people to be in the street and sell the meat in the street. So this is the inside. We created a street between an existing building and the new building. And here you can see the municipality had a friend. There's a lot of corruption in South Africa. So the guy who was the manager had a brother or an uncle who's got a paint business, and he got some money from the uncle, so he had to have the building painted. And it's the same with the fence. Most of the fences around the building is because somebody is getting some kind of a bribe somewhere from somebody to get a contract to do this work. So here we can just see that red door goes to a movie house. And then here you can see they've painted it just to show you the yellow that came through very strongly. This was, what is fantastic is that 10,000 people get their pensions. So now, in the past, they used to stand outside in the rain. Now they can come inside. They're much more dignified. They sit. There's security, and they can receive their pensions, which they can then put into a bank account. And in the past, they used to be robbed. They would get their pension, and as they left, somebody would hold them up at gunpoint and just take their pension. So this has really been a big difference to people's lives. And you can just see, before they put the fence up, how much life there was outside. So all of those mosaics were done by the people from the first project who came and worked with 20 young people in this project. That was the second phase, which is where you write up, where you can get if people have children between the age of 0 and 18, you can also get a small subsidy for them. So it's a big problem because then people have 5 children to get the money to survive on, and then when those 5 children turn 18, that money falls away. So we have got a huge unemployment. We've got a huge number of between 18 and 40 or 36-year-olds that are unemployed. That age group, they estimate between 60 and 70% of them are unemployed and unemployable. So it's a huge problem. This is just the outside. And then I want to show you there was a flood. And when we talk about global warming, today you look on the news and there are floods everywhere. But this flood is a 1 in 50-year flood, and the community had it before, and they had it again in 1981. And the whole community was flooded away. And you can see the red square is where the community voted. Everybody participated from all the different areas, and they wanted it in that position. So when we started listening to people's stories, it was quite scary because the lady in the middle with the Saartjie Baartman on her T-shirt, she came to fetch the remains of Saartjie Baartman from the Louvre, where it was stuck in some kind of storage. And she's actually from South Africa. So that poet, Diane Ferris, came and fetched her and brought her back. So we work a lot with her to try and use poetry to get people to heal. So she listens to people's stories and then she writes poetry. They're doing quite a lot of this kind of work at the moment to try and restore dignity amongst people. The man on the right of her told us that he watched eight of his family members die or drown in that flood, and nobody had ever asked him anything. So finally she wrote one poem, and everybody said the water came through like a red, raging bull. Oh, I shouldn't have done that, but anyway. Okay, let's carry on. Let's see. Oh, that's what I did just now. Okay. Can we get rid of that thing? Sorry. Here we can see the model. We built lots of models so that people can engage and say, yes, we like it, no, we like it, or how they want us to change it. Here you can see just a conceptual sketch during that phase, and then eventually we landed up building this model, which was all the stories that everybody told. So they said there were lots of helicopters, maybe we want a helicopter. Then they wanted a train. You'll see just now the train comes back into it. There was some kind of a curved shape they liked, and they asked us to put a curved shape in, and then that windmill was something that is traditional of that area. So these are all images that came out in the discussions with people. So on the site there were 2 existing buildings, and what we do is we recycle, we try and reuse all the materials that we find on site. And just to show you again, the grey is the existing and the red is the extension. So where we try and create, especially on the west side, that we cut the sun out. It's a passive design. We use louvers and a whirlybird so that we don't have to use any mechanical ventilation. You can see the hall where the louvers and the extraction sits. People are also, again, getting their pensions, getting social services to assist them. And then they decided they wanted a train. So it took a year to buy this train carriage, and they wanted a little restaurant in the train. And what happened is that there were 2 young kids who were on drugs, and they bombed the train. So by the time we wanted to use the train had been burnt out. So it was quite interesting because we had to get involved with what do we want to do with these 2 kids? Do we want them to go to a juvenile center, or what do you, and eventually we worked with social workers so that they would not, so that we don't reinforce the problem. I found that it's a much easier way not to just put young people into detention. Here you can see Willie Bester, the South African artist. He worked with 4 of the young people in the community, and he trained them to do handrails with recycled material. Here you can see these lovely blue handrails that they picked up all this recycled stuff from the farms in the neighborhood, and then made these beautiful handrails. Oops. There you can see at the top, when we went to the scrapyard, there wasn't a windmill. So we just took that rocket-looking shape and brought it to site. You can really see the red and the train at the top there, and the imagery of this kind of little story that they wanted for the history of the town. That was the station was a place where there were a lot of sheep herders, and they used the train to bring food and vegetables from the city to them, and they wanted that memory to be reflected. And you can see the corrugated iron we use is from the roof. All the corrugated iron on the facade was from the old roof of the building. And this is the back, where you can just see they've got an ambulance center where they help accidents on the road. And now they've painted everything white, because white is the cheapest paint. So it was quite funny that, in fact, the red was extremely expensive, and we just took a chance. But they've literally painted a lot of the walls white, and they've built their own gym under the train. So the place is really buzzing and occupied. There you can see there's also 2 sports fields. They've made a playground, and the building is really being used very, very effectively. This is a clinic which is designed a bit like a village, like a healthy village. And here we worked with local people to get them to become subcontractors to do the brickwork. And here we had an explanation to the residents of what we want to do by one of the directors, the model of the project. And then this man was a local contractor who was a brilliant bricklayer. So we used him to control the quality of the brickwork by the local bricklayers. Here you can see somebody working with the youth on mosaics, and just really had a big effect on this project. We used 16 young people that were unemployed, and we trained them how to make mosaics on the outside. You can see the entrance, and that's a pre-waiting where people can sit. People arrive at 5 in the morning, and to keep them out of the rain, they can be in the space when they go into the clinic by 7:30. This is the inside, and that's a chemist on the left and the records on the right. You can see these red doors. They pull down, and you can lock those spaces, so that then they use it for other functions. They use it for a community hall, they use it for talent shows, and it's really amazing that something that is just, it's in the day it's used as a clinic, but on weekends they use it as a facility for the community. Here you can see that area. There's the kids in the front, and then this was some of the mosaic inside. There's a courtyard inside. This is a courtyard, a physio courtyard to learn how to do physiotherapy. With your wheelchair, go on sand and either go on gravel. So it's part of the physiotherapy. And the outside, and you can see how lovely it looks at night. There's just houses here. In this area, there's nothing else. There's one school in this building. So it really serves thousands of people. So it has to have a bit more of a life. And there's still some cattle walking around and some sheep walking around. So although it's like 20 minutes from the city, people are still keeping cattle and sheep near their homes. This is a reserve where we took 29 projects and we recycled the material, which we really want to try and encourage, to make 11 units, little cottages. So here you can see it's 2-bedroom cottages. They are accessible to people in wheelchairs. 3 of the units are totally accessible. This was the original units, and I just want to show you how we demolished them. So people carefully took the whole building apart. We numbered all the pieces so that we could then build with the pieces. Here you can see now we're starting to assemble the new buildings with the recycled material. And you can just see we worked also inside the buildings. So there's insulation. We added, to make the buildings more sustainable, we added insulation, we made better spaces. We also made an outside sort of barbecue area because there's 60 baboons, they're big troops of baboons that run around. So you can't really sit outside and enjoy yourself. You have to be inside. And it's actually quite weird because this is the most beautiful nature reserve. But if this troop of baboons come and they get into your unit, they smash everything inside. And also you'll see, we tried to avoid gutters because the baboons just come and hang onto the gutters and pull them off the buildings. But they subsequently are harvesting rainwater. So they've put some, just on the one side, they've put some gutters and downpipes. And there you can see the 11 units. It's a really, really beautiful, if you ever visit South Africa, it's a beautiful nature reserve. They've got leopard, they've got buck, they've got walks, and they've got pools where you can swim, and they've got a redwood forest. So it's a really, really nice nature reserve. So this is our office, and I thought I'd end on this one. We built on top of the old house. We did it ourselves with our own hands, the people in the office. And when we just did the corrugated iron, somebody wrote Blikkiesdorp. Now, I can try and translate it, but it means a building built with corrugated iron. So it's like a derogatory term in South Africa. So they painted it on our wall, then somebody came and painted something else, and then somebody came and painted something. So we've become a little bit of a story in the neighborhood. And the studio is on top of the house. There you can see we have a library. We have sort of a space where you can chill and just hang out. The studio, there's workspaces at the top. There's my thank you. And there's Sibusiso with the aeroplane he dreamed of building, and he built it. And he builds lots of aeroplanes. So that's why I think you must let people dream and let them tell you what they're dreaming, because then you can make a better environment that includes a lot of people's input. Thank you. We've got 10 minutes left for questions. You've got a time manage.
Vous pouvez poser vos questions en français si vous ne sentez pas les poser en anglais, et poser toutes les questions que vous voulez, y compris s'il y a des choses que vous n'avez pas compris. Vous avez compris les baboons?
Hi, we'll try in English. I would like to know, do you know the reason why the municipalities seem to be against a majority of your projects?
I think you can all maybe, oh no, let me do it properly. I think they do not, it's a very strange thing, but I do not think they want people to be empowered. Because the minute you are empowered, you can actually challenge them. So I'm going to give you an example of another project. We had a project where we were going to build a whale. Baleen. No? Balloon. A balloon. Okay. The community wanted a balloon to be built. And we were working with them. We had lots of workshops, lots of gangsters. I mean, those are big gangsters. And the municipality want to control everybody. So a private person, who's one of the richest people in Cape Town, came and he wanted to buy land from the municipality to build a private golf course. But the people from the project were so clever after 1 year of working with them that they stopped the golf course. And the municipality, when we tried to do something on that site, had us warned that they will shoot us and have us locked up because of that we stopped the golf course. So that was a concrete example, and they're very similar ones with other municipalities. They are doing their own thing. It happens in France. It's not just South Africa, I can promise you. I've worked with a mayor in France who was equally devious. They've already got their plan. They've already got their setup with their friends. And if you are trying to do something that is not in their focus, they will just do what they want to do. So I think it's this thing of making people too clever. Because at the end of the day, when we walk away from a project, people can help themselves. They don't need me. I went back to another project one day, and there was a lot of women outside, and they called me and they laughed at me, and they said, "Look, we've built a sports field without you." And they'd made an external gym, and they'd made a proper urban park, and they said, "Go behind there, there's another one. We've already made another one. We don't need you anymore." So it is because then people have a voice. They don't want you to have a voice, they want you to keep quiet.
C'est un micro? Ok.
Quelle année vous êtes, si vous êtes à l'école d'archi ou à l'IMBT, c'est intéressant pour nous de savoir juste, voilà. Donc,
I'm not an architect student anymore.
Okay, well,
but I used to be.
If you work, tell me I'm an architect or a landscape architect or whatever, just a tool.
I work for a land trust, so I'm on the other side now. And my question, thank you for the presentation, it was really inspiring. And I think my question relates to the previous one. It really clicked when you said that the municipality didn't pay for one of the projects. So in the end, I was wondering, in the end, who's commissioning and who's financing that kind of community center? Because I guess it's not the community. And you said you raised the money from Germany, so thank you.
Yeah, for the theatre, we raised the money from Germany. But for the first phase, the municipality didn't want to help us and the provincial government didn't want to help us. So one of the people from the community flew to Pretoria to the government, the national government, and went to see the Minister of Arts and Culture and told him that we're not getting anywhere with our provincial government and our local government, and the national government forced the provincial government and the local government to work with us. But the money came from the national government. Yeah, it's just... You all have politics in France as well. I've heard some interesting stories.
I have a question. I'm teaching here in the School of Architecture. It's regarding education in your country, South Africa. How your approach of practicing architecture, education of the public, is taken in consideration with the school architecture in do you have special program which educate the students to follow your practice, or is it something which is marginal, I would say?
Until recently, it was very marginal, but there's actually a professor of architecture in Pretoria, which is our capital, and her name is Carin Smuts, and she's a professor there, and she has introduced a specialized master's in participation. So To answer your question, I have one of the guys who worked in my office is now a senior lecturer at the university in Capetown. So he is encouraging it, but it is not the norm. It's not accepted by everybody as the way to work. A lot of people are finding it much more interesting. I have just completed a master's on one building, writing up what that process really is and coming out with a toolkit so that I can carry on with a PhD, but not about that. But I have had phone calls from many universities and many educators in South Africa to send them and practitioners to please present that so that they can see how they can participate. So there is a growing interest. In England, at Oxford Brookes, there's a man called Nabil Hamdi. He is like the guru in this stuff. So, yeah, they have a course in development management and participation. And there's a woman from Bangkok called Patama Runkrakvik. And she is one of his products, and her work is just incredible. Her work is really... She works like with a tap. She'll work in an area, in a slum, and she'll do paving and a tap and a light fitting because that's what the people want. They want safety and security when they walk at night. So the work she does is really, really interesting. Who wants the red box?
Thank you again for your presentation. This one is really just to have your point of view on the many projects you have produced along the years. I just wanted to know what was your most challenging project that you ever realized in terms of environmental, community, and collective?
Sure. I've had some of those hard questions today already. I think the one that really probably broke my heart is the one with a whale. You know, we worked with the kids in the school, we worked with a community, we worked with gangsters who never talked to each other, the community never talked to them, and we got them to work together to come up with a dream and to come up with something. And then for the government to basically kick, you know, the government originally asked us to work on the project because they couldn't work in that community. And then for them to eventually, because of the stupid golf course, kick us off the project and stop the project. I think for me that was the most traumatic. And I must add something, is when they built, there was a lake, a big lake where the community people and people living in that area could go and fish. So when the first golf course came, it was a German developer, they appropriated the water so that nobody from the local fishermen was allowed to go and fish in that lake anymore. So that's why people were angry, because they had that first experience of the first golf course. Now there was another golf course coming. And the golf course promised to employ a lot of people. What did the golf course do? They employed people from Germany. They don't employ local people. It's not what it's about. And I think the people had just had enough. That's why they just said, we're not going to allow this. And so for me, that was really sad. And I sometimes want to go back, but I know I'll be hitting my head against a brick wall. It won't happen, no. The corruption in that, it's one of the richest towns in the Western Cape. And the corruption in the municipality is insane. These are all people who spend all their Sundays in church, but meanwhile they get millions from people behind their backs. And it's just, no, the corruption in our country is mind-blowing. So, yeah.
Thank you.
But you keep struggling anyway. So most important.
We're out of time.
Don't be shy.
You can speak in French. You don't have to ask in English. I teach on Reunion Island, and I've done it for 7 years. And the students there, they don't speak, they start off not speaking English, but by the end of it, they do quite well, especially even the ones who hate me in the beginning. After 5 years, they don't hate me anymore. But you can speak in French. You can translate, eh?
Oh, merde. J'avais pas vu.
Je pose la question en français.
Oui.
Comment elle lui est venue l'idée de commencer sur ce genre de projet? Je pense qu'en tant qu'étudiant, quand on sort de l'école, c'est pas forcément évident de se lancer dans ce genre de thématique. Donc, comment ça lui est venu?
Okay, you're going to translate. The first clients I had were from a rural community, the ones I showed, and they taught me to work this way. No, but they spent hours and hours explaining to me how we have in order to fight apartheid, we had a very strong civic movement. And they explained to me how the civic movement works with street committees, area committees, and a general meeting.
C'était à l'époque de l'apartheid, vous savez, ce régime horrible qui a duré en Afrique du Sud et que vous n'avez pas connu parce que vous êtes trop jeune, qui a été changé par le travail de longue haleine par un leader d'opinion qui était Nelson Mandela, qui n'a jamais été remplacé. Je dis ça parce que c'est elle qui me l'a dit. Et à cette époque, non, mais sur le plan de l'évolution politique, voilà, c'était un phare. Et puis, quand le phare s'éteint, c'est un peu difficile. Je ferme la parenthèse pour dire que ça faisait partie de leur conscientisation politique de travailler de manière participative et ensemble. Et c'est pour ça aussi que ce projet architectural, ce client, enfin, cet homme qui vient demander de faire son premier projet, lui a demandé de travailler avec cette méthode-là. Donc voilà, c'est venu d'une demande. Est-ce que c'est clair?
No, but I think that was one of the main ones, was to be able to listen. What they basically said, you have to listen. Listen to people.
La première chose à faire pour vous, mais c'est vrai en général dans la vie, c'est qu'il faut écouter les gens, écouter la demande et écouter à la fois ce que vont vous demander les gens qui font leur projet, qui leur est un rêve, mais qui est aussi la manière dont... Elle a dit un moment dans sa conférence que les gens qui avaient revenu sur cette école des années après, il y a des gens qui lui ont dit c'est notre projet. Et quand vous allez vous, là aussi par expérience, être sur un projet d'architecture où les gens diront que c'est leur projet, c'est souvent parce qu'ils ont participé à sa conception, à sa réalisation. I'm sorry,
No, that's fine.
too much, but
No, that's good. You can do it. Then people can understand it. It's fine. Très bon.
I just want to. I have a question.
Yes.
I want to know at first, in the first years until now, the difficulty of the work. Still, does people still receive your work the same way, or changed?
Okay. In fact, I didn't show it, but in the show I was going to do, I show at the end a man who is now 40 that I'm working with, who was 10 years old when I met him. And I'm still working, and today we're doing, for the children who we were doing the theatre, where the municipality doesn't want us to use it, we're now building a small little building with containers and a solar roof, which has basically been funded from France. Lacoste Foundation gave the money for the first phase, and EDG, who's your supplier for electricity? EDF? No. EDF. Yeah? So they are giving us a little bit of money, and then hopefully somebody else. So at the moment, that project is really being funded by French partners. But little bits of money, like 60,000 euros and 40,000 euros and then 30,000 euros, and we've got to build something with it. So we're still doing it, and I never go to somebody to do a project. People always come to us and phone us and say, we know that person that you worked with, and would you come and work with us? So people contact us. It's normally a telephone call. Okay, that's enough. Yes. That was. Ooh. Give her the ball or the cube.
Je peux parler en français ou pas?
Oui.
Okay. C'était pour savoir si la mosaïque c'était
Hey, excuse me. Please listen. You want to be an official translator? You've got to be official. Yeah. Okay. Please listen.
C'est pour savoir si la mosaïque c'était un parti pris ou c'était parce que c'était les habitants autour qui faisaient ce travail.
Tu veux dire qui a décidé de le faire, c'est ça?
Et si c'était pour aider les habitants à plus à s'intégrer dans le projet ou c'était juste parce que...
I think because we want to involve younger people. So people who have nothing to do, who's sitting on the side of the street. But the real answer is when I was at university, we traveled through South Africa, we went to Zimbabwe, and we went past the Ndebele. Now the Ndebele paint their buildings, they have a blankets, they have jewelry, they have pots, they have everything is painted in a traditional way. And I think somebody asked me this question last night, and I realized today that it comes from that visit where I saw how identity can really come out with creativity. But something we do with a mosaic is we step back a bit. We try and let people design and develop what they want the mosaic to be. So somebody will say to us they want trees. And you can see the tree thing works quite nicely. It's not so difficult. Oh, sorry.
Faisait partie des traditions de certains endroits qui ont été visités en Afrique du Sud et aussi dans un pays à côté qui s'appelle le Zimbabwe. Donc, a priori, l'idée est venue de là, et tout comme l'idée de mettre en scène dans leur mosaïque des arbres, par exemple, faisait partie de la culture et donc de la capacité d'appropriation qu'auraient les gens en reproduisant ces formes-là qui viennent d'une dimension fortement culturelle. Si vous avez la chance d'aller un jour en Afrique du Sud, globalement en Afrique de l'Est, en général, dans tous les pays d'Afrique du Sud et d'Afrique de l'Est, vous verrez que la couleur, l'expression par les couleurs fait partie de la culture et de la manière pour les gens de mettre en scène des projets. Enfin, pour eux, la beauté, c'est différentes couleurs de toutes sortes. Donc, ça correspond, voilà. Quant à la mosaïque, c'est une manière de l'exprimer. Et la première phrase qu'elle a dite aussi, c'était aussi pour mobiliser à une échelle assez petite des jeunes dans des rues qui avaient très peu de capacité. Faire une mosaïque, c'est un peu comme faire un puzzle, mais assez simple parce que les morceaux sont carrés. Et donc c'était aussi une manière d'impliquer des jeunes, alors que si des jeunes veulent leur faire monter les briques, c'est un peu plus difficile. Voilà. Je traduis la compréhension que j'ai de la réponse de Carin. I'm not a translator because I make comments.
Okay, but I also want to add that I work with somebody who's one of South Africa's top mosaic artists.
J'ai la chance de travailler avec un des artistes spécialistes de mosaïque qui est le meilleur de l'Afrique du Sud.
Yeah. So her name is Lovell Friedman, and she studied art when I studied architecture, and we have worked together. We trust each other. From a technical point of view, she is brilliant. So between the two of us, we try and work together on most projects.
Vous verrez dans votre vie de futur architecte, puisque c'est la majorité, que c'est intéressant et c'est riche de grow together, de développer des partenariats avec des gens, des artistes, mais ça va être aussi des maçons, des charpentiers, etc. dans votre vie, parce qu'il y a une complicité, une confiance. Et là, on parle d'un pays où le niveau de corruption est facteur 100 par rapport à chez nous, donc c'est vraiment important de travailler avec des gens en confiance. Donc ça, c'est encore une fois des commentaires de vieux professionnels et de vieux profs en école.
Okay. We finished now.